kind of odd hearing yourself. I'm Nathan. I'm from Florida Coastal School of Law, and we're here to sort of detail how Drupal helped us do very well on the annual Georgetown Survey. It doesn't necessarily mean that Drupal is like your panacea for anything. You can actually use any tool if you wanted to do it by hand. I might call you insane, but you could still do it and still score well, but you know, to each their own really. But this is how we did it, and Drupal sort of helped us along that way. So as I said, I'm Nathan. I'm the webmaster. I'm the only guy when it comes to the web. That's it. You see it. You're seeing it. So right now they're without webmaster. So if there's any fires, sorry. And this is Alan.
My name is Alan Smodic. I'm the web communications assistant. And don't throw anything at me, but I'm in marketing and communications. I promise I'm not the enemy here. I'm a geek at heart, and I'm glad that the library and IT world has welcomed me. But I've only been to the school for about a year and 3 or 4 months now. So we'll kind of walk you through with what the school did up before I had come along, and Nathan was obviously a big part of that, so he can kind of show you the atrocity that our website used to be.
So the history. Right around 2006, I was brought on not as a webmaster, but as just a computer lackey guy. And part of my role, we sort of mixed roles when we were doing stuff. So I was helping with the web because I happened to be fairly decent with it. And 2006 was sort of like the detonation point. We had a really static website. There was like zero content management system. Every page was like, hey, copy this template, put it in this folder, and start putting your content in. And it was all through one guy. And that guy was the guy I replaced. So actually, I'm going to escape out of my slide here for just 1 second to show you that's what it looked like. And this is on the Wayback Machine, so you're missing out on some totally awesome Flash that would go here. That would show girls under trees as one of the really awesome things. But as you can see, just like on Thomas Jefferson's website, and if I can get it to do it, yeah, flyout menus and sub-flyout menus, probably over here. But there were multiple levels. Every single department wanted to have their own item on the front page. And when you're one guy up against a whole department, it's hard to say no. So I don't blame him for bending to their will, but again, there was a better way. So let me jump back in. So 2007, that was really when we were like, okay, that's enough. Oop. Hello? Okay, there we go. 2007 was sort of like the catalyst. We needed to find something. It was getting too much. A lot of people wanted a lot of pages done, and there was not enough people to do it. So 2007, we were like, let's find something. I had only had real experience with WordPress, and the web administrator at the time only had experience with like some Cold Fusion pseudo sort of content management systems. Not very good, not very scalable, and also very expensive because Cold Fusion is an Adobe product now. So we were like, Drupal, yes, Technologist uses Drupal, great, let's get that in here and start playing with it. At the time, we were kind of a disorganized mess. It was just me and the developer, and we were trying to figure everything out, get everything together. We had a lot of static pages that there's no way to just be like, oh, hey, I wrote that SQL query and pulled everything in and, you know, time to go home now. So that was a sort of a daunting task ahead of us as well. But we sort of struggled through it, struggled through testing out Drupal 5. Right around there, Drupal 6 sort of launched, and we were like, that's so much better than Drupal 5. Let's go do it. So brings us up to the current. And if you hadn't sort of inferred from the history so far, Drupal was sort of an organic setup for us. We just sort of jumped in feet first, not knowing precisely what we were doing. We went and downloaded a whole bunch of modules. Thankfully, Wayback Machine has not archived some of those pages for us. But they had such kitschy options as the weather and the current time. And we really just sort of are glad that it's not up there anymore. But so the current site is Drupal 6. I have gone and tried to make it as easy to manage as possible. So now my day does not consist of constantly having to go in, edit content, move a block, add a menu item, et cetera, et cetera. Now it's just sort of me saying, hey, you need access? Great, here's your role or whatever. So actually, we're going to step back into right before the current, right into the 2008, 2009 era, where we started looking at how we were going to tackle the content problem, especially with all the menu items on the front page. Everybody wanted something. And as one department, as one person, it's sort of like, I don't have the authority to say no. I don't have the authority to be like, no admissions, you can't put 40 pages up there. No, one of our big problems is financial aid wants like every piece of information that they've ever collected up on the website, which is great, but not so great if you're trying to organize it. So we started our web committee, and a lot of people have committees that they go to and sort of discuss this thing, but we didn't have something like that. So we got together all the people who are the biggest stakeholders in the website. So admissions, we got administration on, we got the faculty on board, we got the library on board, we got marketing on board, and IT, obviously. So everybody who had some sort of like big say in how it goes and how it gets put together were brought onto this committee so that they could at least say something and get it put up there, or at least have some sort of idea of how this is going to play out for them, so that they didn't feel like they were left out.
Do any of you have groups around the website like that? How does everyone else function? What type of things do you... Is it the same type of people that get together? How often do you still meet?
It's most of the IT, peer services people, a couple librarians. We used to have one of the deans for faculty hit out advancements, but he stepped out after a while. We meet every week. Changes what demands are coming from which areas.
How long have you guys kind of...
Since I got there, but that was only about 8 months ago. But it sounds like they've been doing it for a couple of years now. They're big on teams.
Can you see it helping the process?
It does help a lot, actually, mostly because we can joke about, oh God, admissions wants to do this again.
Mm-hmm.
But after a while, like, okay, let's see where can we farm this out to? What's the best way to approach it? Let's just assign it to this group of people so we can keep focusing on, okay, what needs to be redesigned, what needs to be more.
We have a similar committee, but we find that we have to base certain ground rules as far as people's expectations.
Yeah.
That it couldn't be, we have 15 people all with their own agendas, and like, well, I want this, and I want this, and I want this. Everyone came on board, but it was with the understanding that we want your feedback and your suggestions, but that was no guarantee that would be what the website would look like at the end of the day.
Did you kind of write out policy guidelines, or is it just understood?
It was sort of more or less understood that, you know, that just because you show up at this meeting and you have 6 things that you want, that's not going to necessarily guarantee that this would be a good time for you to justify why you want 6 shortcuts on the homepage. But, you know, that's no guarantee that you're going to get. And that was very important because a couple of years prior we'd done the same thing, and it was a nightmare. It was like it was taking forever to get anywhere without those.
Yeah, when we started the committee, we actually brought on the department heads initially just to sort of say, hey, what do you want, and where do you want it? Okay, thanks. And we actually had one of our faculties go through the content that we already had up on the website and sort of lay out a plan for us as to what would be the best way to sort of organize this. I'm not really all that great at organizing content. I mean, I can do it, but my real thing is sort of managing a web server and not necessarily like, coddling content. So when we brought them on, we were like, hey, yeah, great, thank you for your feedback. Now we're just going to sort of incorporate that into what we want, or what our final vision of the website would be. And that's actually worked out really well for us. After that, we sort of give them carte blanche access to their own sort of section of the website. But it sort of got rid of the buttonitis that we had sort of been infected with earlier. But yeah, that was one of our big things, bring people on. Not necessarily keep them on as like a recurring event, but sort of bring them on initially, say, hey, what do you need up there? But yeah. So the other part was marketing. It was a big part. Previously, marketing was pseudo-involved with the website. I mean, they had like a direction and a theme and a brand to push out there, but it wasn't really involved at a higher level. They sort of just threw stock images at us and said, hey, these need to go up, or this content needs to go up. But now marketing was more of a driving force, getting statistics, or doing usability studies, or doing what are they called, like focus groups. Mm-hmm. Getting us more data that we can't necessarily get ourselves because we're only a small group.
At the time, we had, it was before I came on, but from my boss, we had, the whole school had just gone under a significant rebrand. They had hired a firm that kind of brought through a humongous study. I don't know if you guys have ever had your schools do that. If you're not in touch with your marketing department about any branding studies that you guys have had done, you should talk to them about it. There's a lot of info as to what is resonating with the public, what isn't, and a lot of that stuff was website. A lot of it was, this information isn't here. Why is it looking like this and looking something different over on the other side? There's a lot of statistics that can help even the IT department understand where Marcom would be coming from. Because when we get phone calls from constituents that things are wrong or whatever, it comes into us, but we need to back that information up with these reports. And that was kind of Marcom's role in the whole organizing of whenever everything was merged into Drupal. There is a rhyme and reason. If you have good marketing people, there's a rhyme and reason why we do the crazy things we do, much as I'm sure as it is in IT. And I think the web committee has really been, at least since I've been there and Nathan and I are starting to work together a lot more, I have a really web background. I can kind of hear my boss go off on tangents. Well, I want to do this, this, and this. And Nathan doesn't have to hear all the crazy things that aren't possible anymore. And I'm sure that's probably been a help to you.
Yeah.
And my boss is probably going to see this on video and kind of, I'll hear about it later. My boss will throw ideas out, and then he'll look at me and say, can we do that? And
I want to make it pop.
Yeah. I mean, I can say that, yeah, some of the things can be done, but let's do it this way. Or I can filter that down to a language that Nathan can more understand. And it's kind of produced a much better flow. And the web committee was kind of the driving force to all of us kind of working together. Because as the slide says, it's not, the website obviously is not just technology anymore.
Yeah.
And the things such as Thomas Jefferson, you guys showing, giving roles to everyone else, it's, the content lies with a faculty member, a department, a student, and IT, and Mark, I don't want to see all the content. I don't want to be responsible for putting it all up there. So the web committee, you guys that have had sort of similar groups within your school, I think we'd highly recommend forming something like that. And ours still meets every 2 weeks. We discuss new ideas, ways that we can go through this report that we'll talk about in a little bit. What can we add? What's in this report but we don't think would work for us? Every 2 weeks, there's a new idea, progress on things that we're implementing, and so forth, and it's really been a big help.
Sort of like going to a meeting with your boss, but having more input on what goes on with that.
Yes.
So it's sort of like assigning a task, but having input on that task instead of being like, yes, you need to go and build a Twitter widget for the website. that's sort of discussed in, well, would that work on our website? Is that a good idea? Where would we put it? What do users even want a Twitter widget on our website?
Right.
So, and then the next bit is the Georgetown Survey. This one actually hit me by surprise. I don't know about about Brooks, but it hit me by surprise because I didn't realize that there was like a group of people out there actually like looking at law school websites and going, that's cool or that's terrible. But apparently it comes from Georgetown and Yale. These two guys, we actually wanted them here, but...
Yeah, one is a new father. The other kind of had a busy summer, but we did reach out and try to get them here. So if you guys want to direct any bad press their way, you can email them. They're pretty nice guys, sorry to say. They're pretty nice guys if you don't already know them. But we were hoping to have them here so we could all kind of wave their points in their face and kind of figure out what the deal is.
Yeah. But at first I thought it was just sort of like an arbitrary set of rules that they had gone through and said, hey, this is a good-looking website and that one I don't like so much. But actually they do have a bunch of like criteria that they go through. So it's a little bit more scientific, but it's still very arbitrary. So, but they've done, to my knowledge, only two. So they've got the 2009 and the 2010. The first one that I saw our website on, we were outside the top 10 list. We were on number 11-ish.
Yes. And this was after the Drupal.
Yeah, that sort of came together. We didn't really realize we had gone through this marketing thing, this whole big rebrand, moved everything into Drupal, and then suddenly this Georgetown survey comes out and it says, oh, your site's not that bad. So that was really a great validation for us. But again, it wasn't just necessarily Drupal that did that for us.
That survey just is based on the homepage.
Right.
Yes.
Nothing else. They don't look any deeper than the homepage.
I don't think they do, but I don't know what their particular procedures are for that. So they may actually dive into like your admissions page. But they have a whole bunch of measurements, and I'm not going to go through them all here, but what Drupal did for us was sort of take all of these pieces, like search form and RSS auto discovery, embedded carousel or content carousel, embedded media, HTML5, headings, CSS, alt attributes, valid markup, and all that stuff, and made it so that I didn't have to think about putting that on a page, because when you go into Drupal, like when you put a block on the sidebar, by default it's going to have a title that's in a header tag that you don't have to worry about, and it's going to sort of garner you these points without you have to even think about that. But again, it's not necessarily all about Drupal. Drupal's not our panacea, but it does actually give us a lot of leeway without having to think about a lot of this stuff, and it keeps it simple for us. But some of these are actually are good metrics, like having a search form on your site. Not exactly like the biggest thing, but it does sort of affect your end user. It's not really noticeable to a lot of people, because when I go to a law school website, I'm not looking for the search form, but a lot of your users are. They're looking for something, and if they can't seem to find it, a search form is like the next go-to thing. And if they can't see it like an above the fold piece of your site, then it's lost. So having a search form, great. But other pieces like HTML5 or doubling core or microformats are a little bit more esoteric. Drupal doesn't necessarily give you all those pieces to get like right off the bat, but they do enable you to put them in. So microformats is a piece that you can just sort of plug in and then have it generate it for you, which is really nice. I don't know if you wanted to cover any of the topics, but I know everybody's favorite topic is the girls under trees.
Who in here has had points deducted because of that?
Yeah.
And have you stopped taking pictures like that? Some have, some haven't.
Yeah.
Have you had good results? Has the next report come out since you stopped doing it, or no?
No, it's just, that grinning girl, we see her so often, it's time to replace that.
They just put her in front of the school instead of under a tree. Grinning guy.
Grinning guy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
that'll be the next one, the grinning guy.
Now, obviously, some of that is nothing to do with building a website or anything. However, that again goes into having that open conversation in the group with your Marcom department. Like we said, this is only looking at home pages, but it is good press for everyone. It's good press for IT guys that take pride in having Drupal running the back end, producing a good front page. It gives pride for the Marcom department that might focus more on the aesthetics of thumbnail images and putting their social media links. You know, it's more than just one department, and it really kind of shows through all these things. So if that's been a problem, and maybe your Marcom department doesn't know about this report, tell them to stop taking pictures of people under trees.
Yeah.
Put them down in the library with some books. Put them out by a pond or
moot court teams.
Yeah, yeah. One of them was moot court teams. You know,
Supreme
mock
Court
trial
justices.
teams. If you've had Supreme Court judges on campus, don't take pictures of them. And so, I mean, it's really. I don't want to say that part is a joke, but I guess it kind of is. But
we actually committed that cardinal sin on one of our images on our site, girls under trees.
Well, there you go. But really, the driving point is that Drupal handled a lot of this stuff for us. Like Nathan said, we did not know this report was being done, but just from us getting people together, hashing it out as a team, finding Drupal that could work for us, realizing best practices, what some of you all might be doing with your sites already, gave us a good site. The report comes out without us knowing that they were even reporting on it. Bam, we get number 11, and everybody's ego kind of goes up a little bit.
Yeah, Drupal sort of reinforced some of the good practices that we were trying to put in, and that sort of show up on this as a good practice, so headings and valid CSS and all that. But at the same time, Drupal is just one piece of it. We actually had to think about why we put something there instead of over there. So this list, this Georgetown list, is only sort of part of it. And it is kind of like, it is only the front page, and it is only kind of, subjective, because they're just looking at, oh, do you have girls under trees? Do you have a favicon? Do you have your address on the page? That's sort of only part of what makes up a good website. So like responsiveness doesn't actually show up on this list. And responsiveness is huge. I mean, if you talk to any Google engineer, they're going to be like, if you can cut out like milliseconds on your page load time, it will improve your site's appearance to your end user by an immeasurable amount. And they say, like, I think 4 seconds is like the maximum load time on a web page. Otherwise, people just get bored and go somewhere else. And that's sort of true, and you don't see it on these reports. So I guess I'm going to kind of gripe about this report a little bit too, that they don't really include some important stuff that really should be on there. Page load time is a huge one. Just sort of accessibility. They do kind of market it under there, like sort of valid markup and alt attributes, and that's all well and good, but I mean, you're looking at a larger scope, especially for public law schools with like 503 requirements. It is really huge to sort of get those under control, but they don't really cover it. They don't run that through the 503 markup validator, which is something that everybody should be doing. I mean, regardless of what your status is, you should really be looking at accessibility because they're a humongous market. We actually had some of our students who had like serious disabilities who couldn't really use our website effectively because of some of the changes that we had made earlier, that horrible button interface. They couldn't use it. So that actually became part of my task, was to use or embed some sort of logical layout accessibility for these people, and Drupal sort of did that for me. I didn't have to worry about where menus were or how they were structured because Drupal sort of figured that out for me.
503, you mean 508?
Yes, 508, sorry. 3, 8,
Sure. Go back and look up 503.
503 is probably some different statute.
503 is public or nonprofit.
Oh, okay.
But 501c3. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm telling everybody to go look up 503. That's definitely what you need to be under. So Yeah, we did well on the first one, and we actually sort of looked at the report and looked at some of the cons that we had on our site, and they do list them. They list like what you didn't get, what was something that detracted from your perfect score, and we sort of took those to heart. So at first, we didn't really have a content carousel, and to me, as a web developer, I didn't really care. I was like, I'll put a picture up there. Great, awesome, my job's done. But it is important because it does sort of bring out more elements of your school. It brings more people in. It makes your site feel more interactive. Multimedia, Ajax, all those buzzwords that you throw around. It didn't really matter to me because I was like, I just wanted a site, but it does. It helps our users sort of find content.
It allows what we did
You want me to bring that up?
in the past. When did we do this? Maybe 4 months ago? Not that. That is our old site. This is what we're working with today.
I'm still logged in.
Before, the front image was maybe half that size and was just, it would rotate through, was not clickable, kind of just had testimonials on it. And that was obviously something that we got points deducted for. We didn't let the user go through and
girls under trees.
Yeah, there we go. So hopefully they're not judging right now. So what we did, we got the idea to, it'll help us in this. It's obviously a best practice. It's good. Nathan and I went through, found something that worked for us. Now we're able to insert in different images that link out to other things. We actually rotate them every week that the order they're in because we go through and look at the stats of how many times it was clicked. Are people only clicking on the first two because they're the first two, or are they that popular?
Yeah, content freshness is another thing that they don't really list on the Georgetown survey, and that is a huge problem. Before, when we just had an image up there, it didn't do anything. It just sat there, and the image was just there for a long time. Now we have a fresh image. Every week we have new fresh images up there that link to new content or to old content that may not be looked at as much. And we do look at those stats, and we do look at where people are going, and we want them to see a lot of this content, except for everything under financial aid, because they have a gigantic menu.
But it's in Drupal, obviously, if you guys are the ones working with your Drupal setup, it's obviously easy to kind of go in and customize a little content thing like this. And it makes a difference in a little report like this. It makes a difference to your user. And to us now, it seems simple that every school should have something like this, but we were the ones that didn't. And I'm sure there are a lot of others that don't do something as simple as this that can really make a huge difference. And it's something that Drupal allows you to do. Drupal gives you the flexibility to do.
Yeah, Views makes this almost a non-issue. Views, and I think I'm using View Slideshow, or maybe like a variation thereof. I think I have like a content type for images that then rotates those in. I'd have to go back and look. I haven't even touched it in a long time. That's what I like about it. I don't really have to muck with it a whole lot, other than like putting new images up there.
So that was one of our bigger additions. Something recently as upcoming events. There used to only be 2 events listed there. You come to the page and see 2 events, and that's it. No one was really clicking the more events thing. Said, hey, let's put 5 there. So now you come and you get a refresh of 5 events there. Something as simple that we weren't doing. We weren't putting thumbnail images on the teaser stories, the first 2 under news and noteworthy. There's not one there on the top one. I didn't put that top story in, so don't blame me.
Yeah, that is one of our problems, is like good content.
Yes.
Is sometimes a problem. I imagine that's with everybody. Once you unleash your end users on the website, they tend to make some pretty interesting decisions as far as content goes. Sometimes they just copy it from Word and paste it into the editor and go, I hope it works. And it ends up being like a zillion paragraphs long, or sometimes just mushed together. So don't let your users use Word and the website at the same time.
Or stress the import from Word option
Yeah.
in Drupal. So that's obviously the thumbnail images. I think they give 3 points for 4 actually. Something as simple as a thumbnail image.
Yep.
It gives a little more to whatever piece of news you have there, and it's easy enough to drop an image in there and size it.
Yeah, one of the things that we really got was take a lot of pictures, even if you're not really using them all the time. Just take a lot of pictures because you can use them as thumbnails. So like graduation, we've got graduation photos, and you can just stick a thumbnail up there. Kind of a or an obvious one, but you know. By default, Drupal will use whatever image library PHP has, and if you have 2 of them, like there's one called GD, and there's the other one called ImageMagick, you can use either or. I believe there's a module that allows you to use more image libraries, but yes, there's an image processing library in there if you want to use that, called Image Cache. Yes, you can set up like templates if you want it to scale down or crop it to a certain height. You got to be kind of careful with that because certain images don't necessarily crop correctly, or not crop incorrectly, but they don't crop the right area for you. We don't currently give them a thumbnail library, probably because not a whole lot of our faculty are interested in posting stuff to the web. They usually just funnel it through marketing. So marketing has like all the thumbnail libraries that they need. But for other departments like career services, yes, they have like their own cache of images that they can just pick from. And actually FCK Editor, which you guys use as well, has like an image browser option in it. So you can just sort of give it a path of images and then say, hey, go here and pick an image.
Do you have a professional photographer, or you just hand out cameras to staff? There's different events.
For
no
different
way.
events?
No way.
Yeah. Well, we get a lot that want to just take their point and shoot down and don't realize that photography isn't, I've had to even learn myself that photography isn't just grabbing a camera and taking a shot. We have, in Marcom, we have the budget to hire out professional photographers. There are a lot we work with. There's actually a couple students that freelance that we kind of reach to. We trust them. There's professionals in our area in Jacksonville that we use. I'm not sure what the setup is like with your Marcom departments, but if they have the budget to do it, and it's something that will show off better photos, will make the school look better in any situation, they'll probably not resist helping you out. We actually just redid the library website and did the same thing, where my boss kind of met with the library and said, I want to help you with this. You know, if you want new pictures, let me do it. I'll pay for it. We can kind of get actual students and actual, the photographer will bring the light, will bring everything, and it really makes a huge difference if you don't use professional photography, but you probably really should.
Yeah. Professional photography will take your site from looking kind of drab, like my own personal site, to actually looking like your company actually has the ability to, produce content.
Right, and you can use it everywhere. Your marketing department is probably already taking it. It's probably being used in your magazines, in your collateral. It probably already exists.
And don't feel bad on reusing images. I mean,
yeah.
Just don't use them too often.
Right. And we take our excess and dump them to Flickr. People love looking at pictures of themselves. We put them online. If we can't use them in the website or in the print, we put them on Flickr, and in the past year they've gotten more than 130,000 views now. People download them, start showing up in results. People love looking at pictures at whatever they do. So.
Yeah, and you can do your own photo gallery, and certainly Drupal would allow for that, and it makes it very easy to do that. But we chose Flickr partially because it's sort of like its own self-built piece. So if you don't have to host your own images, host the e-commerce piece if you want to sell photos, then do all the other back-end stuff where you actually have to like send out photos and organize them and tag them. Flickr makes it a really easy to use, like, ready-built system. The same with YouTube. They have actually YouTube education where you can put up like your educational material that you want up there. So if you want to have like orientation material up there, you could just throw it up on YouTube for free, have them host that, not have to scale up your infrastructure for video and have streaming and all that fun stuff.
And then we actually, at times, go back through and, we'll embed a Flickr slideshow on maybe the commencement page within Drupal, take these pictures, and anybody in our department can go grab them, and we put the full res on there.
We do a similar thing where our marketers and marketing has the official laws with Flickr accounting catalogs full of and it's and you can mash up a whole. You can get it on Flickr, you can look at it on our website.
Yep. Yeah. And again, I mean, Drupal allows us to sort of move towards like expanding features instead of sort of cringing at new features coming in. So if I wanted to bring in Flickr images, there's a module that makes it very easy for me to authenticate and then pull images in as they get posted, so that I don't have to worry about like, oh, am I doing the right thing? Is it the right OAuth, or is it their own secret sauce authentication API? Same with Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. You can actually pull that stuff in very easily. And I mean, writing your own modules for that is cool and everything. And certainly you have to. You end up hitting some sort of wall for Drupal where a certain module just doesn't do exactly what you want. It's sort of like a roundish peg and not exactly a circle. And you need it to fit in there, and you can actually just make some glue modules that sort of help along. And in that case, it makes it very easy for you to sort of get at the guts of Drupal, be able to do everything that you ever wanted to do with all of your content, and sort of funnel it back out to your end user. So that you're not really required to know everything. Like, I don't know anything about how LDAP works. But we have an LDAP authentication module for our AD users, which is great. Similarly with Facebook, you can use Facebook Connect. There's a whole module that will just allow you to have users jump in, for better or worse, through their Facebook account, which like pretty much all of our students have. So for an alumni site, which we do, we use actually a Facebook Connect piece for our alumni site.
And for having things like Flickr and whatever else, it's 6 points in the report for social media links. So if you have a Flickr page, put a little icon or a link on your homepage, 6 points.
Yeah, easy points.
Yes. And we've actually, from 2009 to 2010, with not much effort, we moved up to number 6 in the report.
Which gets our picture up there, too.
Yeah, which got us a little screenshot on there. Again, got us some good press. Again, made us feel much better about the decision to move to Drupal, to get everyone together, to get your arms around what the website can do, what works for you. And that's an important part, is there are a lot of things on here that, something like embedded media, we don't feel that works for us.
Yeah.
We're not going to embed a video on the front page or do anything like that, so we'll never get those points. What we have is what works for us, and Drupal has gone a long way into helping us do that. And now, whatever works in our little system, we kind of go through the report, and it's a goal for us to be number 1. So, if any of you guys are the number 1 school, I forget who it is right now, I'm coming for you. And the carousel gave us a good 4 or 5 points since the last report. So,
University of Illinois. Anybody here from Illinois? No. Okay.
But don't worry, the criteria will change next
yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and HTML5 is one of those ones that they're sort of doing like a provisional, like if you have it now, you get points, but maybe later on you might get deducted for not having it. And, Drupal has a number of pieces for HTML5. It's not actually ready built for HTML5 yet. The last DrupalCon, they were all like, it's still HTML 1.0, so don't kill us. But certainly it's easy to sort of shoehorn in HTML5, especially at the theme level. You can just sort of go, yeah, it's HTML5, and then the other pieces, you can just be like, oh, search forms are now, search the special search HTML5 form. That is a process that I'm going to go through for the front page. For our library page, which we just released, I did it all HTML5. I wanted to start fresh. I didn't want to have some old theme laying around that I had to sort of, tweak it every 2 days. But yeah, HTML5. It's great.
Are there any other gripes with the report that you guys have? It's fun to talk about.
Don't worry, they'll see it.
Do you guys use it to go back on and see where you can incorporate, even if they are silly things?
I found it to be a really helpful checklist of things to be aware of and to go back and reevaluate. And so for those reasons, it has been a really helpful thing. The girls under trees thing is just something that we like to use as an excuse for why we dropped last year's rankings. But it's the whole process of keeping up to date on the website is always a constant reevaluation. And this is something that's a high visibility thing, numbers attached to it, comparing to other people in our same field. And so for that reason, as a webmaster, I got that email from the main campus webmaster, from my dean, from all of these other people are looking at it. And so it's bringing more visibility to the process of reevaluating what we're doing. And so for that reason alone, it's valuable regardless of what criteria they're using. It begins the discussion. We can use as a jumping off point, go back and add something, or to have those kind of communications regardless of whether you're doing it within a web community or it's kicked off ad hoc as a result of the report coming out.
Right. No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of these things are kind of no-brainer pieces to the site. But some of them are not necessarily implemented. They're either not implemented right, or they're implemented in such a way that it didn't really affect your score. So you may want to go back and actually look at what you've done. Certainly, I mean, headlines, favicons. I mean, that's all stuff from 2000 that I don't know of any web developer that's not aware of it. But I mean, some of that stuff like RSS, some sites don't even have an RSS feed until you click through to their news section, which sort of defeats that purpose. Like, if I throw your website into Google Reader, is it going to find your RSS feed? If it doesn't, then what's your end user going to do? Again, I mean, it's some stuff is obvious. Microformats, not so obvious, but I mean, you start reading reports about how Best Buy is doing microformats on their search pages, and they're getting higher results in Google, which is, sort of like another status symbol is how high you rank on Google and what kind of results that you can get them to pull out and have special areas for. And with Best Buy, I mean, you search for, monster cables, and all of a sudden you get this product page, a little product blurb with stars and what reviews they got. And so that sort of stuff gets pulled out, and it's not necessarily obvious because you don't really see microformats. I mean, the best implementation for an end user is a Firefox plugin that I don't know of anybody who has. So it's not really obvious for your end users, but it is obvious for a lot of other reasons.
In the report, actually, there's only 13 schools in last report that actually use microformats. And going off of things that seem obvious, such as a search box in 2009, 168, in 2010, 182. So having a search on the front page, there's still schools that aren't doing it, and it's like you said, it seems simple to some people, but it might not actually resonate with others.
Well, you mentioned having favicons and that being the standard expectation. It could be that in next year's report, they're going to check and see if when you bookmark your site on an iPad or an iPhone, you have not the favicon, but you have the Apple format. And the Android
I would not be surprised if they did.
Technologies you may not have thought to add, but that may very well be a criteria that's in next year's report.
And again, that's another great place to bring up in a committee of sorts to sort of decide, do we want to have this on there? I mean, do we already have a mobile site? Does that already have that on there? Or is it something that we need to build? And again, I can only speak from where I am, where I'm the only guy that's actually doing this stuff, at least from the code perspective, that, you know, I can't make that decision to be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and throw up some images and it'll be great. Because I have to think about, you know, our end users, first of all, and then like my boss, who's probably going to be like, well, why'd you do that? And, you know, you have all these other projects that you need to be doing. You know, that was time that was lost to that. So again, and this also gives you sort of a way to be like, yes, we need to have meaningful page titles, something that we didn't have up until like 2007, which is embarrassing. But again, some schools don't have it. Some schools have like, you know, X school of law on every page. And that's something that, you know, you don't necessarily see because sometimes it's way up in the title bar and you just don't see it. But when you come to search results, it was actually really bad. I would do Florida Coastal School of Law, and every result was the same title. There was no difference. So just for that.
I've been on Twitter mentioning how much I've enjoyed this presentation. Someone actually said they can't hear the questions from the audience on the screen.
Okay.
So audience members either speak up or maybe bring the microphone around.
Sure. I can actually repeat them.
Going off of things that might be in next year's report, and that's another instance where having a committee together and talking about it. When I go to Marcom conferences, Marcom people will talk a lot about, we need an app, we need to have a mobile site, where the mobile site needs to have this. Maybe Marcom can bring that idea to the table, and someone else needs to be implementing it. Or in yourselves, you all have iPhones or Androids. You all know what the next wave of things is. You can proactively think that. I think some of ours, we put that in the blogging system. Yeah. Our blog network has those icons, but our site doesn't. So now maybe actually we'll go back and do that. So.
Yeah, we're by no means the paragons of this process.
But
I mean,
the discussion, the every 2-week discussion with all of us, everyone's going to different conferences. Everyone's seeing what is new, what you guys are using. You know, just bring it up. It's something that small that maybe next year that'll get you 5 bonus points and you didn't even realize it would happen.
I mean, I used to go to DrupalCon the last 3, and I would just come back with just flush with ideas. Again, when I jumped in feet first, I had no idea what Drupal was capable of. I was like, oh, this is sort of like WordPress. And it's not. It's so much more. I mean, right now I'm doing something that I didn't think you could do in Drupal. As a project for the pro bono office, suddenly I'm building this application for them with Drupal at the core, and I didn't have to like build all this stuff for form validation, which is incredibly boring, incredibly difficult to do correctly. Drupal sort of helps me do that more effectively. So,
any more questions or comments?
We still have like 12 minutes.
Well, we could be the cool professors that let people leave early.
Yeah, we'll just sit up here and talk into the camera.
Well, I mean, we wanted to use this as, you know, a lot of this stuff seems basic, but it really helps a lot of people, the end user, helps everyone feel good to be on this report, to keep your site looking fresh, to get the right people together to talk about it.
And if you don't have the actual PDFs, both of these links will get you those PDFs, and I'll put them up on the page for our particular discussion.
How do you find content management as far as helping keep your site fresh? The problem that we have is content itself, but also the formatting of the content. The idea that we want to give people access to the pages and have them be able to upload a little bit more than just basic text, like URLs especially, stuff like that. But we've had problems with that where URLs in Word, like they copy and paste from Word, it copies all this crap.
Yeah.
How does Drupal help with that?
Repeat the question.
So the question is, how do you manage content with? I'm guessing that you get people who put up sort of very rough content that's not really formatted well, or
A classic example would be Word. They would copy it from.
yeah. So copying from Word, and it copies all that incredibly horrible stuff. I do a lot of aggressive filters in Drupal, so whenever somebody saves something to the site, anytime it gets actually pushed out to like a page, so that stuff gets saved to the database as is, and then when Drupal actually comes out to go display it to an end user, it goes through the filters list of stuff that I don't want, and it's a pretty aggressive list. Actually, I think it's a white list instead of a black list, so I'm like italics, bold, underline, like the strong and emphasize tags, and basically just the bare minimum to get you a formatted page, nothing else, because it is very difficult, especially when you copy and paste from Word. The best editors out there still struggle with cleaning up Word formatting. Actually, we try to tell some of our users to copy it into Notepad and then just paste it into the editor, because it ends up being better that way.
You use CKS version. I actually take the paste Word button out
Yeah.
of everybody's WYSIWYG editor except mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I just
Mm-hmm.
I don't have it forcing paste this text,
Right.
but I have the paste this text button. So instead of going through Notepad, whatever, I just tell them to click on paste this text. I'll paste the content in there.
Yeah. So just for the web audience, I guess, you actually remove the paste as from Word option from Drupal, which is, I can understand exactly why, because it works to an extent, but I mean some of that stuff.
Newer versions of Word are actually better than older versions.
Yes.
The 2010 is a lot cleaner.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and we try to push them onto the newest versions as soon as humanly possible. Not that we want all the bugs associated with it, but because it ends up being better for all of us. Yeah. 8 minutes. I can't dance. I can't sing.
That's all I have. If anybody else has any questions or comments, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to clap or... all right, keep going. You got 8 minutes to fill. Yeah, I mean, other questions, if you want to come up and talk with us. We do a pretty standard Drupal install, although Elmer said that we have an odd setup. We run it on Apache on Windows, which is sort of like the weird group. I really wish that we could be running it on like Linux or BSD, but my administrator is like a Windows diehard guy, so I do what he says.
In this whole process, what do you think was the most difficult part?
So what was the most difficult part of this whole process? Can I say all of it? I think most of it was going from the static pages. That was a lot of work. At last count, Drupal is keeping track of about 1,400 nodes. I would say about half of those were created after Drupal. But so it's like 600 to 800 pages that need to be like copied and pasted and cleaned up. We actually had a team from the library help us just grab old pages, clean them up, paste them in, go. And then a lot of other things. There's a module actually for Drupal called Path Auto. We use that like extensively because it allows us to sort of make nice URLs without having to like teach somebody to be like, oh yes, put in the title without these certain characters. It will actually just build it for you. And that works with like different content types too. So you can be like, oh, this is a picture, so picture title or picture date title, whatever.
Nathan, for anyone, because I wasn't around whenever you guys made the full switch, how long did it take to go from the static, not so good site to getting everyone together, launching Drupal? For anyone
I would
that
say
might be in that stage of things.
the physical labor part of it, of actually moving the content over, was about a month and a half of just straight up copying and pasting every day. which is a nightmare. I'm all better now. But the whole process, we actually tested out Drupal for like 2 or 3 months, just kicking the tires, seeing what it could do, seeing what modules we really wanted, tearing down the old test site, putting up a new test site, and just sort of getting everything into its final format. It probably took 4 months, and mind you, it was just me and then my team of librarians to copy that data over.
Yeah, so to anyone that might be on the web watching, it's a doable thing to take your website and, you know, go through Drupal.
It is doable.
Nathan was the one guy. He has more help now, thanks to me, funneling stuff to him. But Nathan was the one guy, 4 months to go from, you know, what we had before to something that is now considered a top 6 homepage by a couple of guys.
You know, we could probably change our school title to that, just a couple of guys. I don't think that would go over well, though. No, Terry, don't. No, I'm not actually suggesting we change it. Again.
Did you find other departments very helpful in anything that you needed to do for the website and getting everything ready?
Yes and no. Yes, because there were a lot of departments, like career services is like my star example, getting their stuff on the website. They wanted it up there. They were chomping at the bit to get new content up there, and the previous sort of gatekeeper method was, you know, getting on their nerves because they couldn't get up new information fast enough. There are other departments that are not so helpful. I may have mentioned one of them, financial aid, who want everything on the website, like every single document, every single word that comes out of their mouth up on the website. And, no, actually, financial aid, I'm sorry. Hopefully they won't see it. Okay, so here's their menu. It's longer than a page. And they have all of their information up here, and it goes to everywhere. And it's sort of it's a no-win for me. I can't tell him no, that he can't have his content up on the website. And if he says he wants it up there and I say no, he goes to my boss, and my boss tells me to put it up there. So I just put it up there. But we work, it's getting better, but some departments are better than others. Obviously, it just depends on who you're working with. The library, when we redid their website from static to Drupal, was an immensely helpful group of people because they wanted their stuff up there. Drupal is a natural organizational system for them, and they love that stuff. So they put that up there, and they were just like, yeah, just let's do it, and let's get a team of people. And plus, they were already used to the lamentable task of copying and pasting a couple hundred pages. So, yes, some departments are good. Just, you got to smile, grin, and bear it, because some people just don't get what the web is all about, or they're kind of stuck in the GeoCities mentality where it's like spinning GIFs and, you know, the skull and mail me. Come on, 2 minutes. Got to fill 2 minutes.
What's the learning curve for something like this? I mean, I've asked them from the developers, and I guess everyone's quickly thinking now, but we come from a cold fusion background.
Mm-hmm.
We have a cold fusion on an IIS server,
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft SQL Server. We were just wondering what the, you know, if we were to move, what the, you know,
Learning curve for Drupal. I guess it kind of depends on how familiar you are with content management systems in the general. Drupal is not odd in that sense. It does a lot of things that other content management systems do. It's sort of like the nuances of how Drupal handles that. Actually, Thomas Jefferson University, they put up the sort of layers guide. And once you start understanding how Drupal starts piecing these things together, it becomes very logical. But it's sort of like trying to learn standard in your car. It's difficult all at first, and it's all like this horrible mess of I don't understand it. But once you start figuring out like why the things do the things they do, it becomes much, much easier. Like, adding taxonomy becomes a snap because you understand how Drupal is actually going to be handling that on the back end.